When you are sight reading a piece or you're going to learn a new piece, one of the first things that you should always do is figure out what key you're in. And so what we need to determine is whether or not you are in a major or a minor key. Now the thing is that the first thing that we always do is look at the key signature, but what we know is that every key signature can represent a major key and its relative minor, meaning that the major key and the relative minor share the same key signature. So in order to find the relative minor of any key, you go from Do, the first pitch of the major key, and you move down 3 half steps. So from C major, you go from C down to B, that's 1 half step, down to B flat, that's 2 half steps, down to A, that's 3 half steps. That 3 half steps away from Do of the major key is the new Do of the minor key. Okay, so in C major, we have Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Now in A minor, we have the same exact key signature, which means there are going to be no sharps or flats. There's A minor. Okay, so it shares the exact same key signature. Okay, so when we are looking at the key signature of any piece, you are going to have to determine whether or not the key signature that is there is representing the major key, or if the key signature there is representing the minor key. All right, so we look at this Mozart piano sonata, and we notice that the key signature of this particular piece has no sharps and flats, which means that immediately we think, oh, this piece is in C major, okay? And you may be right, all right? But we need to do a little bit more detective work to determine that, okay? So one of the first things that we want to look at is we want to look at the very first chord that you play in the first measure of the music. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule because not every piece of music starts on the tonic chord, but it's a good way to start, okay? So we would look at this very first chord that you are playing in this piece, and you would notice that in the bass clef, you have A, C, and E, and at the top you have an E. Okay? A, C, and E. Now, that is not a C major chord, all right? Instead, that is indeed an A minor chord, okay? So that makes us pause and go, this might be in A minor, okay? But let's do a little bit more detective work. Okay, so the one thing that we know about minor keys and minor scales in particular is that the most popular minor scale is the harmonic minor scale. And the harmonic minor scale actually takes the 7th degree of that scale and raises it 1 half step. And when that 7th degree is raised 1 half step, that note is going to require an accidental, a sharp or a flat or a natural, that is outside of the key signature. Okay? So if we're looking at this particular piece and we're thinking, okay, this could be either in C major or A minor, let's do a test to see if the accidentals that are on the page actually support it being in A minor. So in order to do that, what do we know about A harmonic minor? We know that the 7th scale degree of A minor is G, okay? A is 1, B, C, D, E, F, G is the 7th degree. all right? And that means that in A harmonic minor, it's not going to be a G, it's going to be a G sharp, okay? So in any piece that is in a minor key, if you see that most of the pitches that have accidentals on them are corresponding to the 7th scale degree of that minor scale, chances are you're looking at a piece in minor. Okay, so let's see in this piece if that actually works itself out. Okay, so as I'm looking at accidentals, now in this piece you know that there's a little accidental on a grace note in the very first measure. Grace notes you wouldn't really take into account when you're determining major or minor key, because it's just a little embellishment. Okay, it's not actually part of the melody. So I'm going to ignore that little grace note in that first measure. But in the second measure, we see we do have an accidental. We have a sharp, and what sharp is it? It is a G sharp. Ding, 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 ding. All right, we know that in A minor, the 7th scale degree is a G, which means we're going to raise it to a G sharp. So it's very possible that this G sharp is telling us that we are in A minor, okay? But let's keep looking, okay? So then we don't have any other accidentals after that on the first line. In the second line, again, in that second measure, we have another G sharp, okay? So another little reinforcement here that there's a very good chance that this piece is in A minor, okay? And then as we go on, we see a couple of other accidentals. In the third measure of the second system, there's a C sharp, then a C natural. In the fourth measure of the second system, there's a D sharp, and then there's going back to a G sharp, okay? But essentially, G sharp is the accidental that keeps coming back more and more, okay? We have a G sharp in the second measure of the piece, in the fourth measure of the piece, in the fourth, 5, 6, 7th measure of the piece, the 8th measure of the piece, the 10th measure of the piece. That G sharp keeps coming, okay? Now, let's just play devil's advocate. Okay, there are a whole lot of G sharps, okay? Maybe he's just teasing us and playing a lot with having a G sharp, referencing A minor or referencing like an E major chord or something. But if we want to just play devil's advocate and see if perhaps this piece might actually be in C major, he's just playing with us, let's just skim and see, okay, if it's in C major, there are going to be 2 chords which are the most important chords in C major. That is the tonic triad, which is C major, so we want to see C, E, G, or the dominant triad, which is G major, which would be G, B, D. So let's go and just skim this piece and see if we can find a C major chord or a G major chord, all right? So as we're looking at the first measure, as we said, all we basically see is an A minor chord here, okay? There are no differences, all right? Then we go to the second measure, A, B, D, E, with a G sharp in it, okay? None of those notes make up a C chord or a G chord, all right? So let's keep going. Third measure, we go back to that A minor chord, okay? We don't have any C major or G major. The fourth measure, we go back to that other chord. This is actually an E7 chord, okay? We do not see C major or G minor, or G major, okay? And then finally in the fifth measure, again, we have A minor. Okay, so in 5 measures of this piece, we don't have any C major chords and we don't have any G major chords. Chances are we are not looking at a piece in C major. we are looking at a piece in A minor. And so, as a matter of fact, if you listen to this, you will absolutely hear, yes, we are firmly in A minor. And this is what it sounds like.